a Center Region Parks and Recreation Authority report. And that will be Mr. Bill Keogh, I believe.
I was not made aware that I was due to do that this month. Usually I get an email from somebody on staff when it's time for me to, a week before it's time for me to make such a report. I did not receive any notification, so I was not aware that I was up for the report this evening. I apologize.
No problem, Bill. Thanks a lot. I may have actually put that on agenda erroneously. I'll have to check into the timing on that. So thanks for rolling with it. My technology is slowly coming back online, but not quite there yet. So I'm going to keep it with Vice Chair Strickland. And Bill, we'll let you know when we work out when that next report is. Sorry if that was my error. Ms. Strickland, if you could take us to the next report. I apologize, I'm still.
Absolutely no problem. Thank you, Bill. Okay, moving on. Special reports and acknowledgements. We have under Diversity, Equity, and Inclusionary Acknowledgements, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, Filipino American Heritage Month, German American Heritage Month, Italian American Heritage Month, and Polish American Heritage Month. Under Township and Fiscal Responsibility, we have a status update report on credits and exemptions for stormwater utility fee, and that will be presented by Assistant Township Manager James Progar.
Okay, thank you. Brief update on the credit and exemption period, which closed on Friday, September 30th. Total credit applications received 172, 153 were non-structural, 19 were structural. Total exemption applications, 123 exemption applications, 21 hardship applications, 7 nonprofit exemptions.
Hey Susan, he sues anybody can.
And 95 ag exemption applications. And we'll be happy to take any questions for the presentation in the work session on the 11th, October the 11th.
Okay, any questions on that from anybody?
I do not have any questions. I just want to reiterate for everybody that the work session on, sorry, I was divided, my attention, October 11th
Yes.
at 2 o'clock, we will be having a presentation about the stormwater fee first year.
And it'll
Thank
be
you.
recorded as well.
And we will record it, and then it will be available on our website if folks aren't able to attend. And that's not for decision making, that's an informational presentation, so everybody can learn more about it. Okay, thank you. Sorry, back to you.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm almost there, thank
no
you.
problem. There were no other special reports. I'll just note that under Community and Economic Development, the Pine Grove Mills Farmers Market wrapped up their 5th season successfully, and I know the township is has a large role to play in that, so I wanted to acknowledge their efforts over there. And moving on to COG and regional committee reports. Let's see, COG committee reports up first is the executive committee, and I attended that. And nothing to share under that wasn't discussed at the general forum. Up next after that is the CCMPO coordinating committee, which I also attended. And there were just some routine updates. One of them was an update on the State College Area Connector project. Just to note, there will be a public meeting on October 19th. I have 2 dates for that. So I think October 19th is the public meeting at Mount Nittany Middle School. There might be one on the 20th. I'll have to double check those dates. And that's from 5 to 8, but I'm sure the 19th is right. It's from 5 to 8:30 p.m. There will be a presentation at 6:15 p.m. For the State College Area Connector, any information that you're seeking will be found on their website. So it's updated with all the latest study information, dates of that meeting, and all of that.
Is that the MPO website or the PennDOT?
I think you can get through either,
Both.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
great.
yeah.
Yep.
And the only other thing I wanted to make a special note of was the infrastructure bill subcommittee came back with some recommendations. Part of them were to take on some more staff to go after some of the infrastructure funds. It's a very long, detailed discussion, why they would want to take on staff. A lot of these funds are competitive, and that's always been the case, and CCMPO has always been pretty well staffed and able to have projects in the queue that are ready to go in for competitive grants. And so knowing that there's a lot of money out there that will likely be competitive, it was recommended that staff be added so that those funds can be sought after. So I think there just isn't the
Seasonal part, like a temporary position.
No, they won't be temporary, mostly because funding is actually more going that way, that it's competitive. There isn't a time frame on that, but the funds, there's $500 billion out there, and so these positions, this won't be a short project.
Gotcha.
So some of the applications won't even go out until 2024.
Gotcha.
So it's very long-term, and I'm also noting that a couple of the projects, there's a list of suggested projects, and on there is Route 45 improvements. Potter Township is pretty vocal about their need for Route 45 improvements. Harris Township is too, and I think Ferguson Township is, but it's just a note for the future that since this will be carrying on past 2024, for future CCMPO members and staff who are remaining, that that vocal push to get those funds over here in Ferguson too will be needed. So, but yeah, very, very long-term projections there.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Great CCMPO report, so helpful.
Thanks. It was a very good meeting. It was one of our longer ones too. So, okay, any other questions on that? And if not, we'll go to park governance.
And I can actually take the agenda back now. Everything my computer's now cooperating, and I see we have a question. If you wouldn't mind heading to the podium so everyone can
Well,
hear.
this is just a correction. I believe there's a connector meeting at the Bullsburg Firehouse tomorrow night.
Yes, that's not the public information one. That was the one between Harris and Potter Townships, I believe. But yes, you're correct that there is one, yeah.
And the PennDOT review is 2 days, 19th and...
It is the 19th, okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I didn't have that noted exactly,
Yeah, so
thank
that
you.
State College area connector, it's a really important thing of interest that, everybody who's lived here since its inception many years ago is really, watching. So we definitely check on the website of CCMPO, or our website, just for those details. It is 2 days that PennDOT will be reviewing what's called the Pell. Stands for something environmental, kind of a study, where they generally will review, I don't know how specifically, but generally review some of the assets that they tried to avoid and or aren't able to avoid, environmental assets and people's farms and homes. So it is an important meeting. Thank you for pointing that out. Any other questions on that? All right. Thank you very much. Oh, and park governance, Patty attended that, and she is not here. She is the alternate, and she attended that. She did brief me on that, and said that they did, that committee, that COG special committee was asked by the chair at this point to consider engaging with a consultant to help further their mission, and the committee did decide that they wanted to do that. And then the only other question they tried to resolve was who would select that consultant, and it was determined that the executive director would select that consultant. COG executive director. So I wasn't there, so I'll follow up on that to learn more about that process. Any questions? Okay. Finance, Mr. Flint.
Yes, Finance Committee. I thought that Rich Frank gave a really good synopsis of the general forum of what had occurred at the Finance Committee. So, but if anybody didn't hear that, generally speaking, there was a motion made to postpone review of EMS, fire, and parks budgets for October 13th in order to give all the agencies a chance to go back and kind of reallocate, reprioritize, scrutinize their budgets a bit more before it comes back to finance. There was a motion made also to cap, and that wasn't a popular word, but we hadn't come up with a better word for it. So to cap increases in the COG budget at 8% of municipal contributions. So that will be the goal going back into the agencies retooling their budgets for representing. One other thing that was discussed were priorities. I think the COG executive director was looking to the finance committee to kind of highlight priorities of the municipalities for the agencies, so that if they're given a cap of 8% of municipal contributions or on municipal contributions, where are they really supposed to more heavily allocate their resources? So most people said public safety, as did I, being the top, and then other items that I mentioned and others did were planning for the future, and that really largely includes fire department staffing, knowing that volunteer recruitment has been really, really poor this past year, and then taking care of what we have. So utilizing the facilities committee to identify what needs maintenance, repairs, and generally just going back to that philosophy of maintaining and taking care of what we already have. So that was it. I repeated a few different times that Ferguson Township Board hadn't met since the budget had come out, and so I was, trying to generally reflect what I thought that our priorities would be given previous conversations. So, as we go into those next budget meetings, I guess it's helpful for board members to communicate anything that was missed.
Thank you. And thank you so much for attending that. Any questions, Jeremy?
No.
I did have a question. It may have slipped. That was amazing report. I'd like to say I really support the idea of the emphasis on public safety, and it sounds like a lot of other committee members did too. We've saw in the CIP that the executive director really wanted to alert us to those increasing costs in fire. And I appreciate hearing the feedback of our municipal partners that that's going to be a priority. So thankful for that. It's more of a comment than a question. But.
And that was noted too in the CIP, one of the CIP meetings where Steve Baer was present, really noting that volunteer recruitment that is exceptionally challenging. The numbers just haven't bounced back since COVID, and so staffing is going to happen over the next 5 years, and it's not going to be a small amount. So
Yes.
yeah, so as a COG, we really have to prepare for that.
Sorry, one more follow-up because it's very interesting to me, and we're learning this as we go. So one just thought about the staffing on that future look in the CIP on staffing. I don't think we saw yet the effect of that really integrated into that future look, because that future look of 5 years had about 38 parks positions in it, but I think it only had maybe 3 or 4 fire positions. So I think maybe, anyway, I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent, but I'm not sure that staffing need has really been integrated into those projections yet. So that's, I guess, more of a question than a comment, but sort of an observation as well.
Mhm.
So, any others? Okay, thank you again. Spring Creek Watershed Commission. Mr. Garlicki, I have to apologize. I'm pretty sure that we usually find your report up under the commission's report. So you waited a little bit longer tonight, and I apologize for that. But we're thankful you're here.
Well, no, believe me, the apology needs to come from me. I should have submitted that last week, and I was a little bit late.
Oh.
So it's nobody's fault but mine.
Oh, I don't know about that, but thank you so much for being here and attending those meetings. Is there anything you'd like to highlight for us this evening?
Yes, just let me highlight a few things. Thank you for having me. There was an educational topic at the meeting, and it discussed the Walnut Springs constructed wetland. That was by PSU professor Dr. Lauren Phillips. And she basically talked about the importance of wetlands in urban settings and discussed the importance of the Walnut Springs wetland and how it squelches storm flows and also removes sediments, nitrogen, and phosphorus. So that's all good news. It's a little pocket of paradise down there in Walnut Springs that helps out the watershed. Next, I will talk about the one water plan that the Spring Creek Watershed Commission is moving forward with. It's the phase 3 part of this plan. Basically, they're getting together an executive committee to sort of guide where this plan goes. And this plan is going to be tied into the Pennsylvania State Water Plan, just a protection of resources. I wanted to mention that Spring Creek Watershed Commission does have an Atlas project. That's a bunch of educational material that's on the commission website. They soon hope to have an article about PFAS. You might have, we spoke once before about the human-made chemical that's getting into some of the water sources around here. Not in the State College Borough water source, luckily, but it's getting into some water sources. So it's just information for us on some pollutants that are getting into the watershed. And then lastly, I will mention, as prompted by last meetings, the last time I was here anyway, I did talk to the commission about the Master Watershed Stewardship Program. Recall, Madam Chair, you mentioned that I should bring that up with them, and that the commission should promote the Master Watershed Steward Program, which basically is a private property certification program that encourages homeowners to build a better watershed, sort of pollinator, vegetative space on their private property to help squelch some of the storm water that does come down. So we did talk about that at some length. There's a lot of good resources on the commission, a lot of folks that are familiar with this program. I did get an email today from the Nurture Nature Center, Northampton County, just above Philadelphia area. Very strong program in that neck of the woods. This program is open to all Pennsylvania counties. So we're going to discuss it further at the commission and hopefully have information on the commission's website about this program and then try to push it locally here. So, Madam Chair, I thank you for suggesting that, and we're moving forward on it. So that is all I have, unless you have any questions for me, folks.
That's really exciting. Thank you so much for taking that to the commission. I know that really,
Absolutely.
yeah, when we look at, how much property is owned by private citizens, it's really the vast majority of it. So that's really wonderful outreach and getting everybody involved together to really take care of our water. So that's wonderful. I'm so glad. Thank you. I do have another comment on the, I'm really interested in Walnut Springs Park project. I was just looking it up a little bit. I was so interested because, you know, something that here in Ferguson Township that we've been talking about is, you know, utilizing our parks more for their ecosystem services. So, right, watershed maintenance, recharge, those kinds of things, clean air, clean water, ecosystem services. So I did not realize that we were not the only ones having that conversation. We don't own Walnut Springs Park. I think that's a college township or a borough park, right?
Yeah, mostly
Yep.
in the borough.
Okay, the
Some, a
borough.
little bit of Pete in college.
Yes. So they're doing something there in that park that we've talked about in some of our parks. And I won't get into it, but I'll just say it's hard for us to know about those things with the interesting park structure, governance structure that we have here, because even though the programs are administered at the regional level and the mowing happens from the region, the municipal partners are who interact with their municipal parks primarily. And so we talk in these silos of municipalities about what we're doing in our parks. And so learning through the Watershed Commission about a park project is very interesting and cool. And I'd love to, for us, right, and we here in the township have talked about those environmental aspects of our parks, get more of that cross communication. So I really appreciate it. And I'm going to go to Bill Keogh, who is our Park Authority representative, who's got his hand up on the Zoom. Yep, Bill, would you like to comment on the same? Or
I wanted to make a comment to Mark, more than in terms of the parks relationship to the issue. Mark, with regard to the one water plan, on more than one occasion, we brought up the fact that we would like to have an ag voice at the table for all of that, and it doesn't appear that there is an agriculture voice at the table with regard to those discussions as they move forward and what that plan is all about. At least it's not being shared with the Ferguson Township ag community, if there is in fact an ag voice.
Thanks, Bill. Good question. Mark, do you know anything about that, or do you want to come back with some information maybe next time?
Well, I will say I don't know if there is an ag voice on the committee right now. And let me step back a little bit. This one water plan has gone through 2 phases thus far. We're on the 3rd phase. I wasn't around, I wasn't on the commission for the first 2 phases. They were largely identifying problem areas within the watershed. They were mapping the watershed to have a map of the area. This 3rd phase is really more about protection of the plan, of the watershed. So this is really where we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the plan. So this is a good time to bring that up, Bill. I'm glad you did. Right now they are forming just the executive committee, trying to find dollars to support a director of this executive committee, and then start backfilling the committee with members of the community, you know, whether that be through different associations or different protection groups or representatives from the water authorities and Penn State and whatnot. But I will certainly bring that up about the ag voice, because agriculture is huge in this area, and you certainly need that voice. So I will bring that up and then report at the December meeting, I guess. Anything I know about, absolutely. And then just a comment, Madam Chair, you mentioned about wetlands, and they are very vital. So, 30, 40 years ago, even shorter than that, we just kind of destroyed them. But they are a very important aspect of the ecosystems. If they could be added into park projects moving forward, and I think I mentioned once before, I sat on the Ferguson Township Climate Change Committee and had input with the water systems and whatnot. And I even brought it up then that it would be a great idea to implement wetlands again in some of the parks that are perhaps going through rehabs or improvements. So that's a great opportunity to bring wetlands back into the area. They're not only good for the environment, but they're also educational for folks that live here. And just promotes that whole idea of knowledge in the area. So.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
Yep, any other
Thank you.
questions? Okay, all right, and Ms. Williams, Mr. Garlicki was just finishing up his Spring Creek Watershed Commission report, if you have any questions for him. If not, we'll go ahead and move on into staff reports.
No, thank you, and please excuse my tardiness.
Oh, not a problem at all. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Okay, with that, thank you, Mr. Garlicki, and we'll move on to our staff reports. All right, staff reports. Do we have anything you'd like to highlight in your manager's report?
No, I do not, but I'm happy to
Okay.
answer any questions.
All right, any questions for our manager? Okay, any other questions for any of the other staff reports that are included in the agenda? Okay, we will go ahead and move on to unfinished business. First up, a public hearing on an ordinance of the Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania, authorizing the waiver of additional fees and penalties assessed and certain other relief in the event real estate tax bills were not received. This will be introduced by Finance Director Eric Inderson. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you, Chair. The Governor signed Act 57 of 2022 in July to amend the Act of May 25th, 1945, known as the Local Tax Collection Law, by amending Section 7 relating to effect of failure to receive tax notice. The intent of Act 57 of 2022 is to waive penalties and/or fees for new property owners who may have not received a real estate tax bill that was inadvertently mailed to the previous owner. Provided with the agenda is a copy of the resolution authorizing the waiver of additional fees and penalties assessed in the event of the real estate tax bill not received. We recommend that the Board of Supervisors adopt the ordinance authorizing the waiver of additional fees and penalties assessed and certain other relief in the event of real estate tax bills were not received in accordance with the ordinance presented.
Thank you, Eric. And this is a public hearing, so if anyone would care to comment on this item, this is now your time to do that. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I move that the Board of Supervisors adopt the ordinance as stated in the packet and by the Director of Finance and Tax.
Do I have a second?
This is Lisa, I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the matter? All right, this will be a roll call vote.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. This is a roll call vote for ordinance 1079. Ms. Strickland,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Denetti.
Yes.
Thank
Great.
you.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to new business. First up, we have the consent agenda with a contract for Harold Drive in the amount of $1,571.10. I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move. This is Lisa.
And I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any concerns, comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We're on to a resolution of the Township of Ferguson Center County, Pennsylvania, authorizing the filing of the grant application for funding administered by the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for the project Cecil Urban Park Phase 2. This will be introduced by our Assistant Manager, Mr. James Progar. James.
Thank you, Chair. On September 6th, the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources opened an application period for a supplemental fall funding round. This grant round is similar to the spring DCNR Community Conservation Partnerships Program grants. Eligible projects include community parks and recreation projects that expand or rehabilitate existing parks that improve access to recreation for all. As a result of this opportunity, staff proposes to apply for this grant for the construction of Cecil Urban Park Phase 2, a vital, urgent need providing connectivity throughout the Pine Grove Mills Village area. Additionally, this park features climate action affirmative green infrastructure via native seed mixes, impervious paving, while also supporting the township's stormwater infrastructure. The proposed plan is consistent with the Park Master Plan Phase 2.1 as drawn by HRG, with additional walking paths and alternative amenities suggested as a result of a 2021 review process by the Pine Grove Mills Small Area Plan Committee. Amenities include dual walking loops, ADA accessible pathways, benches, parking, and a pavilion providing access to recreation for all. Construction of this phase represents a critical step in the completion of Cecil Urban Park, focal point of open space for a growing community. The draft resolution is provided with the agenda for tonight's hearing.
Thank you so much. All right, I'll entertain a motion. Is one available on the agenda?
This is Lisa. I'll move that the Board of Supervisors adopt the resolution authorizing the submittal of a DCNR C2P2 grant application for Cecil Urban Park supplemental funding.
This is Sierra, I second that motion.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments? I'll say many thanks to staff for getting this together. The board is very thankful, and so are the residents, I'm sure, if they knew how you all really hustled and got this together to apply for that funding when we learned about it just very, very recently. So many thanks to everybody who pulled together on that. And that's the only comment I have. Thank you very much. All right. Yes.
This is a roll call vote.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for the reminder. Resolution is a roll call. If you would, please, thank you.
Thank you. Roll call vote for Resolution 2022-22. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Deneni?
Yes,
Ms. Strickland?
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you. Motion passes unanimously. We are on to a proclamation of the Township of Ferguson Center County, Pennsylvania, proclaiming October as Hispanic Heritage Month. This also will be introduced by Assistant Manager James Progar. James.
Okay, thank you, Chair. National Hispanic Heritage Month recognizes and celebrates the contributions of Hispanic Americans to American culture. September 15th through October 15th commemorates the independence of Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Mexico, and Chile, all gained during this period. Provided with the agenda is a copy of the proclamation to recognize and honor Hispanic Heritage Month.
Thank you so much. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman, here I move that the Board of Supervisors adopt the proclamation.
Do you have a second?
This is Lisa. I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion, or would anyone care to read the proclamation? I don't have that available right now. If anyone would care to, we
I can
pause.
read the proclamation if you
Please
want.
do. Thank you.
Pull up the correct thing here.
Very good.
All right. Whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated in recognition of the great cultural impact and achievements of the Hispanic American community, and whereas Ferguson Township honors the variety of cultures, traditions, and faiths that make up our richly diverse community, and whereas the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors would like to acknowledge our fellow citizens whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America, and whereas in the United States, people of Hispanic origin make up 18.5% of the population, and whereas Hispanic Americans are the largest ethnic minority group in the United States, and whereas the influence of Hispanic Americans has greatly contributed to the culture, economy, and development and achievements of our community and the United States, and whereas the period of September 15th through October 15th is designated as the observance period for National Hispanic Heritage Month, as it coincides with the anniversary of the independence of 5 Hispanic countries, and whereas Ferguson Township, by adopting this proclamation, commits to making our community a welcoming and inviting place for residents, business owners, visitors, and students of Hispanic heritage. Now therefore, the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors does hereby designate the period from September 15th to October 15th, 2022 to be Ferguson Township Hispanic Heritage Month, and encourages all residents of Ferguson Township to celebrate the immeasurable value that our friends, family, and neighbors of Hispanic heritage add to our quality of life. Proclaimed this 3rd day of October, 2022.
Thank you so very much, Jeremy.
Welcome.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed, same sign. And motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to the discussion and authorization to advertise for a public hearing on a resolution to authorize Ferguson Township to grant partial exemption for eligible agricultural properties from the Ferguson Township Stormwater Management Utility Fee and repealing Resolution 2021-06. This will be introduced by Director of Public Works, Mr. Dave Modricker. Hi, Dave. Welcome.
Hello, good evening, board members. You may remember on August 2nd, staff brought forward this subject for discussion with the board regarding the frequency and requirement for the application period annually for the stormwater fee partial ag exemption. The partial ag exemption is available to property owners whose land use is used for agriculture as defined in the ordinance and whose impervious coverage is less than 30%. The fee for those that qualify is limited to 2 times the mean fee, which in our case is 2 ERU. So outside of the growth boundary, for example, that would be 2 times 75 or 150 plus 1 ERU for every dwelling unit. The point of discussion was none of those things. The point of discussion and staff was asked to provide a recommendation to the board, and that is included in the packet, is a revision to the language that requires the partial agricultural fee exemptions to be submitted annually. Staff has reviewed this and is recommending to the board that the applications be once, that they be during the time period prescribed for applications. That's typically between April and September. If the application is approved, it is then in effect for the following fiscal year when the fee applies, and that application does not need to be submitted until such time as the land is no longer used for or meets the definition of agricultural use or is otherwise not permitted for the resolution. And so in front of you tonight is a recommendation that the Board of Supervisors authorize the advertisement of a public hearing on a resolution to grant partial exemptions for eligible agricultural properties from the stormwater management fee, and that revision, as I said, really revolves around the lessening of the requirement to submit that form every year.
Thank you so much, Mr. Modricker. Okay, let's start with a motion. And Dave Modricker did just capture the motion very well. If somebody would like to move that, they are welcome to.
I will move the motion as stated by the Director of Public Works and as outlined in the agenda packet.
Very good.
This is Tiara, I second that motion.
Okay, thank you very much, Tiara. All right, this is not yet a public hearing. So let's go to board discussion first, and then we will take any questions. Any discussion or questions from the board on this matter first?
None, other than I appreciate the work done on this and moving this forward.
Yeah.
It's great, thank you.
Great. Okay, it looks like no other board discussion or questions. Mr. Keough, I believe you have your hand newly up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The ag community overwhelmingly here in Ferguson Township has supported this change from early on in the life of the stormwater management ordinance. It wasn't overlooked, but it was not addressed early on, as our current manager at that time was in the process of leaving, and we needed to get this ordinance passed. The township needed to get it passed in a timely fashion. So I really want to thank staff up and down the ladder, and led by Centrice in bringing this back up to get this what I call a house cleaning item taken care of in the ordinance. And although I will not be able to be at your next meeting for the public hearing, assure you that the overwhelming number of ag owners in the western end of the township clearly support this change, so that we are not in the position of having to apply every year for this exemption. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bill, for letting us know. Okay. With that, I believe we are then ready for our vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously, and we are going to move on to a discussion on the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 allocation of funds in the 2022 operating budget for rental assistance. This will be introduced by Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll do a quick summary on how we got here. On December 7th of 2021, the Board of Supervisors had a work session to discuss and identify the options for allocation of ARP funds. At that time, the board had identified very specific, focused allocations for specific items, including rental assistance program as being identified to allocate funds in the amount of $20,000 to provide some assistance in rental assistance. The former manager had previously led that discussion, and now I am bringing back to the board with a specific, or I should say a proposed option on how we expend those funds, specifically through a partnership with Center Help. Of course, there are varied options as to how we can allocate the $20,000 to support rental assistance here in our community. I had a conversation with Denise, the executive director with Center Help, to discuss their rental assistance program. They already have, and by they, Center Help already has a very effective program and process for taking in applications and vetting those that are considered 250% of the federal poverty guidelines to be eligible and receive assistance. My recommendation to the board to reduce the administrative activities that would be part of processing and awarding rental assistance funds for rental assistance would be that we just allocate the $20,000 directly to Center Help. And Denise with Center Help has already said she would follow up to share with the board very specifically some information on the families that the funds supported through this program. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about the program. Otherwise, I'd be happy to sign an MOU with Center Help. In fact, it probably won't even be that sophisticated. It would probably be more of just a very casual agreement, understanding that we're looking to them to utilize this fund for Ferguson Township residents and prospective Ferguson Township residents who would be eligible per the guidelines that they already have. I'll also share with the board that they're flexible and they're willing to try and provide some level of accommodation. So if there's anything specific the board would like to see with this program, I'm happy to take that back to the executive director. But ultimately, I think the program they have is really effective and it works really well to meet some of the needs of those in our community.
Great, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and begin with the motion.
This is Lisa. I'll move that the Board of Supervisors authorize the township manager to partner with Center Help and allocate $20,000 of funds to provide rental assistance to Ferguson Township residents.
This is Sierra, I second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Follow-up questions? I think Century's covered it very well. Thank you so much for looking into that to make that become a implementable action item. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote then. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Next up is a discussion on the Council of Governments' proposed 2023 budget. This will be introduced by Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a real brief item. You'll see a very short narrative is provided just to kind of recap with some facts that I do believe Supervisor Strickland has already provided earlier with her special report. On Friday, September 23rd, the Center Region Council of Governments Finance Committee received their proposed 2023 operating budget. There will be a link provided in the minutes for those who would like to explore the 2023 COG operating budget for further exploration. And provided with this agenda is a letter prepared by the Center Region Municipal Managers that was sent to the COG Finance Committee for their review and consideration as part of their discussion at their first Finance Committee to review and discuss the budget. Again, I don't have necessarily anything other than that to add to share with the board, so everyone has received that update. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much. Start with questions from the board. I have a few thoughts and comments as well. And thank you also, Lisa, for attending the Finance Committee meeting. We did have some follow-up from the memo in the Finance Committee meeting. We talked about the cap that was discussed there and immediately adopted, which was a step in the right direction to address some of the concerns. No one has any other comments? Do you have any thoughts?
It was a very well prepared memo. I did actually watch the Finance Committee meeting. It's great to see all you folks, all the managers there.
Yes, we all really appreciate the managers, thinking about this strategically to maintain a good relationship, with the COG. We all have a lot that we're looking to do to serve the residents, and really having like that coordinated effort is just so critical. And that memo was a great step in getting us all on the same page with that. So it's very, very, very helpful. There's only one item that I do want to make sure that we mention, because we talk a lot about the attachments in the agenda and they are all available online, but I know sometimes it's difficult in everybody's busy schedule, right, to access them. And it is important just to highlight that one of the reasons that we're taking this so seriously and we want to work together to make sure we provide these services is that in this fiscal year coming up, it was anticipated that if the increases that were proposed were actually instituted, it would result in a need for a tax increase or an exploration because of the sheer amount of it not being able to be absorbed. So it sounds very scary when I say, I mean, that's striking, but the reason why we're having this proactive conversation is so we can make sure that we coordinate as best we can to reduce the likelihood of that while still maintaining very good services to our residents. So, all right, if there's nothing else, that is brief.
I did.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, I don't have the option of raising my hand. It's a little weird.
Oh,
But
sure.
I do, I did want to say that, I agree with Lisa and Jeremy how well this is prepared. And I don't know how Jeremy feels, but I do think for the future, for me or for our board, if I could have a little bit more of training on how the COG works and how they do break down this budget and how that does roll over to the next supervisors and things like that, I think that would just be beneficial for me or maybe other newly elected officials within the COG as well. So I just want to put that out there, but I really do appreciate how everyone is willing to break down and answer questions and answer my emails when it comes to this type of stuff. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That's really a good point. Did you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So Supervisor Williams, what I'll offer to you is that if you have any questions on behalf of Ferguson Township and our participation in writing that memo, I'm happy to answer those questions. And I'm, to the ability that I can answer questions regarding COG budget, I also would encourage you to reach out to Joe Vigilone, COG Finance Director, as well as the COG Director, Eric Nordenberg, and I would even be, more than happy to assist in attending a meeting if you wanted to sit down with them. I'm able to provide whatever level of accommodation I can to you, as well as Supervisor Thompson, as the two of you are continuing to explore that. And also I'll say, you don't need me. Feel free to move on and have a meeting with Joe and or Eric. I'm just happy to be there to provide a layer of support and answer questions specifically as to how, what level of impact any fund or itemized proposed cost might impact Ferguson Township.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. And before we go to Bill, I also then wanted to add that pre-pandemic, there were things called Lunch and Learn at the COG.
Right.
And they were on like specific topics that may be more complicated, and it was really helpful for, well, all elected officials, but especially newly elected. I participated in some of this. It seems like maybe this would be a good topic for that kind of a thing. So maybe just letting them know that it came up in our meeting, that might be an interest of interest for our electeds.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Bill, yes.
I think, thank you, Madam Chair. I think I would just like to reinforce what you just said and also reinforce the importance of what Tierra is asking about. It seems to me that pre-pandemic, we did some things for orientation for new board members across the whole region in a variety of ways. And I know that the Planning Commission at the COG level held a couple of workshops, orientation type workshops for all new supervisors and new Planning Commission members with regard to the MPC and how the whole planning process works. I would hugely support the township and you, Madam Chair, possibly, and or with Centrice, putting together a letter to the COG executive director asking that these kinds of things be reinstituted for new board members and planning commission members. The learning curve is so huge with regard to new members on these boards and commissions that it just needs to be a priority, and I would certainly support such a letter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Yeah, Madam Chair, and to that comment, I'm happy to reach out and send a message to Eric Nordenberg. I would be, if okay with the board, comfortable sending an email and
Yeah.
certainly sharing my communication with the board. I think it's a real reasonable request that'll be well received.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
May not need an official communication per se.
But
right.
certainly a communication
Right.
that directly speaks to a request for additional training with a specific focus on the budget and how the programs and committees work in terms of the structure,
Yes.
as well as, not just for the board, but if I heard Bill, happy to even throw in there trainings that also accommodate our appointed officials as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm immediately thinking our Parks Committee and how they interact with, in fact, Bill and the authority and whatnot. So, thank you. Yes, Jeff?
As former planning commission chair, I will vouch for Bill. He's been wanting trainings.
Very good.
Not to call you out, but I got your back, Bill.
Very good. Okay, good ideas. Okay, thanks much. And we'll go ahead and then move on to our request for our minor subdivision plan. This will be introduced by Mr. Jeffrey Ressler, our zoning administrator. Mr. Ressler, hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, tonight we have the NP Machinery Minor Subdivision Plan. It was a plan submitted on behalf of the client by Pantera. Subdivide tax parcels 24,433.07 and 24,433.08 at 2151 and 2161 Sandy Drive. The plan proposed the adjustment of a lot line between the two lots to add an additional 4,800 square foot to tax parcel 24,433.007. No new lots are being created, and since it's a minor plan, it will proceed as a preliminary final subdivision plan that will be reviewed once by the Board of Supervisors for approval. The Planning Commission reviewed the plan at the September 26, 2022 regular meeting and recommend approval to the Board of Supervisors. Staff has reviewed the minor subdivision plan and is recommending conditional approval subject to the outstanding comments as described in the Director of Planning and Zoning's memorandum dated September 27, 2022. So the recommended motion would be that the Board of Supervisors conditionally approve the subdivision / replot of tax parcels 24,433.007 and 24,433.008 at 2151 and 2161 Sandy Drive, subject to the outstanding comments as described in the Director of Planning and Zoning memorandum dated September 27, 2022. Any questions I can answer?
Thank you so much, Jeff. Let's start with a motion that Mr. Ressler just captured for us. If somebody would like to move that, as found in your agenda.
This is Tier. I move that we, hold on, wait, how do I say it? I move that we adopt the motion as read by Mr. Resser?
Ressler?
Resser. Yes.
Thank you very much. And do we have a second?
This is Lisa, I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? None? Okay, then we are ready for a vote. This will just be a voice vote. So, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Jeff. All right, we'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is a discussion of the State College West End and Ferguson Township West College Avenue area. This will be introduced by Ms. Martin.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Give me her. So as written in the narrative, I'll just kind of do a recap, a summary of some of the highlighted parts here. So there's been increased attention to the West College area as the township continues with the Terrace Streetscape District rewrite effort. And in previous years, I'd like to note that the State College Borough and Ferguson Township has made effort to try and come together and have a conversation about the State College West End and State College Borough West End and our Ferguson Township West College Avenue area, and just haven't been able to come together for that opportunity to evaluate areas where there could be increased cooperation and collaboration for a joint effort to revitalize that area. And I will say personally, you know, in some of my running and biking out in that area, it's hard to miss an opportunity. It's hard to miss seeing some of the potential for what could come in months or years without some type of increased attention and activity. What that looks like, I don't have anything to propose this evening except for taking that step forward and looking to the board for support to extend an invitation to the State College Borough Council and the Penn State Governmental Affairs to see if they would like to meet and have a conversation just to see what town-gown effort we might be able to work toward. And so, of course, I did not want to extend that letter of invitation without the support from the board.
Thank you so much. I think it's a great idea, but let's start with the motion.
Jeremy, here I move that the Board of Supervisors authorize the manager to extend a letter of invitation to the State College Borough Council in Penn State University Governmental Affairs.
Do we have a second?
This is Lisa, I'll second.
Thank you. All right, let's have some discussion. Thoughts? I have one specific comment, sort of itching to say. At the TSD meeting, open house, huge amount of feedback on this. Borough residents were here asking us to coordinate with the borough.
Yeah.
So I just think that, and you know, there was 7 or 8 years ago, there was like one meeting, I thought it went well, but I don't know, there wasn't a lot of follow-up, I don't know what happened, so there's a lot of positive energy around it, and thank you for hearing that and seeing that and picking up on that and moving it forward, because you're right, the thing that we need to do the most is to get together and talk, and it will of course be public, so.
I would definitely emphasize the power of partnership, that
Yeah.
intermunicipal cooperation can go a very, very long way.
There you go. So thank you so much. That's my comment, so I don't have anything else. Lisa, do you
Well, I'll just say we had a lot of that type of comment, just seeking some coordination on the part of the municipalities and elected officials and staffs to coordinate development over there and improvements when the first development on Buckout was being planned and proposed. That's when we did hear a lot of that very specific feedback. So I appreciate this effort very much.
That development is literally shared between the borough and the Ferguson,
Exactly.
so.
It's a very unique spot.
Yep. And Tiara, before I go to public comment, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No.
Okay, very good, very good. And Mr. Keough, I believe your hand is newly up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure.
I guess tonight I'm caught wearing multiple hats for multiple topics. Just to reinforce with the board, the Planning Commission has talked with the Director of Planning about this on multiple occasions, and we even had an opportunity where a Planning Commission member individually reached out to one of our members to get such a discussion and dialogue started. And so clearly, I think without any formal motion action, the Planning Commission for Ferguson Township is very much in favor of having this dialogue, and it would be our hope that if not together with the council and the supervisors, even if the Planning Commission could have the opportunity to meet directly with their Planning Commission to start this dialogue, I think that would be a step in the right direction, recognizing that we may have to take baby steps to get to where we need to be in the long run. But certainly there is some support, as previously discussed by the Planning Commission.
Great idea, Bill. We'll have to play nice together so we can get it to the planning commission level. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's set that goal of getting it to the point where we can task the planning commission to really start working on a coordinated effort there. That would be wonderful. Thank you. Okay, we do have a motion and a second, and we've had some discussion now. We're ready to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We're on to the discussion on the consideration of 2 heritage tree applications. This will also be presented by Mr. Modricker. Welcome, Dave, again.
Thank you. Included in your packet is an application for 2 heritage trees. A ordinance or resolution adopted by the board allows for the nomination and adoption by the board of 2 heritage trees per year. We have not had any other applications, so this will be the first in front of you. Mr. Slimak did present his application along with photographs and a nice narrative that's also included in your packet. It was, the package was looked upon favorably by the Tree Commission and the arborist. The agreement was executed by the property owner. And so tonight, staff is asking the board to consider approving the 2 trees located at 211 Greenlee Lane in the Fairbrook neighborhood as heritage trees. And at your leisure, if you take a look at the one-page application, has a couple paragraphs describing the beauty of the trees and some of the history behind it.
Thank you so much, Dave. Let's start with a motion. Let's start with a motion that the Board of Supervisors approve the 2 trees located at 211 Green Tree Lane in the Fairbrook neighborhood as heritage trees. Would somebody move that motion?
This is Lisa, I'll make that motion.
All right, and do we have a second?
I'll
This
second.
is Tiara. Oh.
I defer to second to
Oh, Tiara,
Tiara.
you got the second. All
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Sure, okay. Questions and thoughts? I have one that's not on this specific thing, but something Mr. Modricker said made me curious about something. Do we have an ordinance, we only do 2 of these a year? Is that?
Yeah, yes, in the resolution or ordinance, whichever the case may be, it does limit the adoption to 2 heritage trees per year. The number of, let's see if it's not a heritage tree, it is a significant tree. So an unnumbered amount of significant trees can be, nominated and approved.
I remember that significance, no limit. I would understand why we would put some limit, because there is a cost, right, of maintaining those trees then that we take on.
Okay, that makes sense.
I would understand that, and this is not a discussion for tonight, but I am just thinking maybe 2 might be a wee bit low, given how folks seem to really like this, and I certainly want to encourage it, so, and the way we've all spoken together, I'm thinking others may too. So not tonight, but maybe in the future, we may want to consider increasing that if the numbers support that. So it's just a thought that came up. I have no thoughts on this particular item. Do you, Lisa?
None on this particular item. I'm really happy about it. They're beautiful trees. I appreciate all the images and the narrative that was included. And yes, I would just say, yes, I hope that that discussion goes forward, in particular because things like this may come up again where it's 2 trees on one lot, and so that limits the variety around the township if we're, so And it probably reduces costs if there's two in one location as far as maintenance. So anyways, I would support that future discussion.
Thank you. Jeremy?
I was just amazed. I'd actually like to see the trees,
In person.
but in
yeah.
person. But
Yeah.
I looked at the photos; they looked all that good. And of course, this past weekend I visited the Baileyville Heritage Tree.
Nice.
Still looking good after 200 some years.
Yeah, was that the other year? It must have been a different year.
I think it was
All the years
2021.
just
It was marked on it.
running
Yep.
together. Okay, very good. Thank you. And Tiara, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Just that I really like how much effort we put into our agriculture. I was just at a event, and I can't remember what event because, like Mr. Keo, I wear a lot of hats too. But someone came up to me and they were talking about specifically, I love Ferguson Township. I love all of the farmland in the area and how you guys keep it. And they were talking about all of this. So I just really am glad that we are doing this. And thank you to our Public Works Director.
Very nice. Thank you, Tiara. And Mr. Keo, is your hand newly up?
Yes, it is, Madam
Please
Chair.
share.
Just as a comment in passing, the Heritage Tree at the Baileyville Community Center is very happy to welcome 2 more trees into its family. And it did not like being all by itself. And so now we have 3, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill, and thank you for being groundbreaking and having our first heritage tree. That's very cool. Okay, we have a motion and a second. We didn't vote, did we? Okay, good.
Not that I know.
Let's please vote then. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously, and we'll go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Modricker. We'll go ahead and
Thank you.
move on to communications to the board. Any communications that haven't been shared yet that we'd like to share?
I was just gonna say I had somebody touch base with me, talk about a Nextdoor app and how, the township could get involved in that, and something to probably look into as we go finish up our strategic plan and budget. I know we have a lot of other priorities to take care of right now, but nice thing, I've actually used Nextdoor, and a lot of residents use Nextdoor. It kind of connects neighbors with neighbors, much differently than what a Facebook or even a LinkedIn would do. Also, I wanted to share, I have with me tonight 2 letters from Washington, D.C. I just want to take a moment to thank Senator Bob Casey as well as Representative Fred Keller for sending their congratulations of my appointment to the board. So
Wow.
definitely an honor when you get a letter in the mail from Washington, D.C. So
Cool.
definitely
That's
appreciate
great,
it. Yeah.
Jeremy. Wonderful. Those are some nice communications.
Yep.
Yes, Tiara.
Like I said, I don't know why I can't raise my hand, but I don't know if everyone else got this. I will definitely turn it over to the township or Centrise if not. But I did get a letter in the mail concerning, since we're looking for a new police chief, and concerning some of the applicants and whatnot. I'm not gonna speak to it because I don't have the letter right directly in front of me, but I will send that to Centrise and she can send it. I'm not sure if everyone got the letter. I got it in my mailbox, so not sure if everyone got the letter, or if it was just me. But if not, I will give that and turn that over and then let Centrise and you, Madam Chair, decide how to proceed further. But I did just want to state that I did get a letter.
Thank you so much, Tiara. Definitely
Yeah.
send that on over. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Any other communications?
I will
Okay.
just share with
sorry.
the
Yes.
board an email that just landed in my inbox, which was from a resident on North Allen Street, just wanting to say thank you to the Public Works road crew for the leaf and brush trimmings in the yard this morning. They did a fantastic job, and she continues to state that that we are very fortunate to have such a crew working in Ferguson Township. and that she appreciates the leadership with a specific focus and interest to Mr. Dave Modriger to make this happen so successfully. So I this landed in my inbox. I thought I would share publicly.
Good
and I
timing.
echo the sentiment from this individual resident that we have in Ferguson Township. Our road crew does a fantastic job. All of our staff, I think, do an incredible job. They work really hard, and something I try to bring to the forefront is that while we have these individual departments and we have finance and tax doing what they do, we have public works out doing the road crew and leaf collection, we have police providing, you know, safety, public safety, that we're all essentially here to improve the quality of life for our residents of Ferguson Township. So many thanks to all the residents that take time to share such positive, very thankful and appreciative comments, and I wanted the board to hear that as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. That's nice to hear.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I would add, a lot of those folks, they are working 24/7, 365 days a year. The job isn't always pleasant, but they go and give the call when needed.
That's right. Thank you. They're why we can all get to work on snow days.
Got it.
Like it or not.
They do tamper our snow days when they are on top of the roads, but.
Very good, very good. Christine, you've been waiting so patiently. Please come up to the podium. Thank you.
I just wanted to follow on, Christine Bailey, Ferguson Township. I just wanted to follow on with what Jeremy said about the next door. I've appreciated his comments and links to Ferguson Township saying what's going on and what people are interested in, and I think it's a really good connection. So thank you for doing that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. It is time to thank Jeremy for his time on Nextdoor because he is using it very wisely. I myself have seen that as well. Jeremy, you're very good at selecting the appropriate thing to share, the thing that people want to know about. It's amazing. You've got he's up for communications hire if you were a board member. You know, it's really good.
Stay in touch with the community.
It's very
I'm
good.
always, my door is always open.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I definitely appreciate the feedback.
Yep. Please, Wes.
Wes Glebe, 115 North Butts, Ferguson Township. Speaking of road crews, for the last couple of weeks we've been experiencing Columbia Gas, their contractor, Allegheny, I think it's Allegheny Construction, they have really deported themselves, I think, very nicely. They've kept things tidy, and interfacing with them and the flagger people has been very pleasant. And today, I was just about ready to have a heart attack because Columbia Gas is now involved because they have to make decisions about the hookups, the laterals that come off of the new plastic lines that they put in. And the bollards that I put in to protect my meter probably 40 years ago, they don't meet code anymore. Of course, nobody else has bollards at all. So we laughed, well, I tried to laugh about that, but that's what happens. So, but they worked it out. I think tomorrow for us is going to be good.
Wes, that's really good to hear. You know, you all, I appreciate hearing that. You all are living in a very difficult, I don't have to tell you, space right now. It's very difficult to live amidst construction. And
well, this is going to be quite an incursion because they're going to have to come into my shop and put a valve in my gas line and and they're going to have to dig up my come inside, if you know how my backyard is. They're going to have to come in and dig up from the shop to the house. So it's going to be interesting. But I have faith that they're...
Interesting word to use for that.
They've been very polite.
Yes, that is what I'm focused on.
Yeah.
You know, it's never fun to have that kind of inconvenience.
No.
but to have respectful and well-trained and, you know, really good folks on the job, it makes all the difference. And so, again, really, really good to hear that. We also do want to hear when it's the opposite, so we can try to intervene and make it better. So, but it's good to hear that that's not what's happening right now. So, okay, thank you. All right, if there's no other communications to the board, we'll go ahead and move on to our calendar items. We've got our usual suspects, which can also be found on our website. And we are also still recruiting for ABCs, is that correct?
We have a few vacancies
Okay.
remaining, and we are advertising from the entire month of October.
Okay, wonderful. So if you don't just want to attend these meetings, but you want to be on the bodies of these meetings, submit an ABC application throughout this month. There are some openings, and we really would love to have more hands on deck. And then I'll just point out Coffee and Conversation, Saturday, October 15th at Dunkin' Donuts at 8 a.m. for the early risers. Please attend and meet the staff of Ferguson Township and enjoy some coffee on the township. If nothing else to point out, we'll call for adjournment.
I just say attend Coffee and Conversation. Don't miss it.
There you go. Don't miss it, even if you're not an early riser. Get out of bed and get there. Very good. Anything else? All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned. We're adjourned.